Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our monthly Perspective Roundtable, Exploring Business School in Asia. Today, we're talking with the Asia School of Business, founded in 2015 through a collaboration between Bank Negara Malaysia and MIT Sloan School of Management. Its MBA program is built on an action learning model where students spend nearly a third of their time working on real-world projects across Southeast Asia and beyond. The school blends MIT's academic rigor with the dynamicism of Asia's fast-growing markets. I'm your host, Christy Blyzeffer of Poets and Quants. Please feel free to use the Q&A function to submit any questions you have for our panelists, and I'll do my best to get to those at the end of the session. You can also check the resources tab to find links with a whole lot of information on their school admissions program and more. So joining us today are Juliana Roth-Nayaran, Director of Admissions at Asia School of Business. Hello, Juliana.
Hi, Christy. Thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. We also have Eric Haywood, an ASB alumni and a venture fellow at Palm Venture Studios. Hello, Eric.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to chatting and getting to know everybody.
That's us as well, for sure. Well, thank you both for taking the time. We're going to just kind of jump right in with you, Juliana. Do you want to
Okay.
tell us a little bit about what makes ASB's MBA program stand out in Asia? How does the MIT Sloan collaboration shape it?
Okay, certainly. Thank you. So at Asia School of Business, probably the word you hear the most is transformation. We're very transformative in terms of the knowledge transformation. It happens both inside and outside the classroom. Our classrooms include a collaboration of both our own faculty and MIT faculty. We also have unique things such as Integrated Management Lab, which was built in collaboration with Don Lasad from Sloan, as well as our own faculty here, where students learn to examine a problem from multiple lenses through the function areas. Of course, there's action learning, which you just mentioned, which is probably our signature trait. Students take action learning throughout their entire journey so that they apply their MBA skills to real world projects in companies. And then, of course, because we are partnered with Sloan, we spent 3 weeks at MIT as part of the program, and students actually get a certificate from Sloan and become affiliated alumni. But most of all, you asked how MIT shapes us.
Yeah.
MIT permeates everything we do. Okay, so we are the only school that they actually started from scratch. They've got partnerships with other schools, but we're the only ones from scratch. So what this means is our core curriculum, a lot of the oversight all goes through MIT. We all speak to our counterparts on a regular basis. We get coaching and best practices from them, and they are here on a regular basis. In fact, we had graduation last week and just welcomed several of them.
Yeah, very
So,
good. Well, thank you so much. That's a great introduction. And Eric, I'm interested to know a little bit from the alumni perspective, kind of why you chose ASB and how you think it helped kind of influence your career and get you where you're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, ASB for me was something that I found through the, application journey while I was looking at different business schools. I was originally based in Japan for my career and was looking to go overseas for a business education, right? And applied to schools in the US. And then I found out that MIT had started this new project and new school here in Asia, and it was like, perfect fit for me because I was interested in exploring more of Southeast Asia at the time. And I think it's a really unique opportunity to have, that sort of elite, top MBA education, but in an emerging market, right? And so it's really filled an interesting niche for me, and it was kind of exactly what I was looking for. So
Absolutely. Real quick, tell us a little bit about where you are right now, now in your career. What are you doing?
yeah. So I am an entrepreneur and a venture capitalist. So I do both those things. I also give advice to entrepreneurs as well. So anyone who wants to reach out and talk, I'm always happy to give advice. But um, So yeah, I am working. My background is Victory.io, so I'm the COO of that, and it is a supply chain software company based in the Philippines, which I founded with another ASB alumni, right? So it's pretty interesting to be so involved in Asia and building businesses in Asia, right? Super, unique market and also one of the sort of fastest growing markets in the world, right? So, it was really interesting to have that opportunity in the startup space. And then in addition to that, I also wanted to get involved on the venture capital side of the business and sort of understand how the financing of the startups goes and how that whole ecosystem works. And so I also took a role at Palm Ventures as well.
Oh, very good. Very exciting and fascinating. Juliana, going back to you, describe a little bit about the curriculum and the teaching methods and how they reflect, the regional business realities of, like he said, one of the fastest growing markets. What kind of case studies on emerging Asian economies, and how those are integrated in the curriculum?
Okay, absolutely. So, as Eric mentioned, it's fastest growing, but if you look at Asia as a whole, I think we're the fourth largest nominal GDP, and
Mm.
which really gives us unique opportunity. So, our curriculum starts with two global elements. It starts with our international faculty that have their PhDs from well respected institutions all over the world. And then it also starts from our global students, because as you can tell from Eric, we recruit globally. We try to hit all regions of the world to have representation in the classroom. But then our faculty research in the region and they pull their research into the classroom. So they'll always get insight on what's happening, what's going on with certain companies, as well as, of course, case studies that they do write. But also, our faculty have very, very deep regional networks, which is super important. So, like if you look at one of our professors, Professor Malati, she teaches our platforms, marketplace, and digitalization. And her exact words are that you can't learn to build a marketplace and platforms unless you understand the context and the environment that you're in. So what she does is she takes regional companies and then she brings in their CEOs and their founders to discuss and talk about how they did, what their challenges were, and really bring the case to life. And she's not unique in this. And our faculty really embrace the flipped classroom a lot.
Mhm.
So you'll have videos, you'll have things to watch ahead of time, but when you come into the class, you need to be prepared for an active conversation because you won't be sitting there waiting for a lecture.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, tell us a little bit about how that, that kind of global, like she said, the global recruitment, how that the classroom culture, the composition of your cohort, how that kind of shaped your learning and the ability to create a network.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say that the ASB network is super close knit compared to some of the bigger business schools out there. I think my cohort was about 35 full-time students.
Hmm.
And but from that, I think we had like maybe I don't know, probably about 15 countries, maybe a little more represented. And so, but I was one of only three Americans, right? And so it was, I think at some of the bigger schools, even if it's, international, it's very easy to just stick with people who are sort of from your region, right? But at ASB, it's just like not possible to do that, right? You're going to be friends with everybody, and it's great. I think that, you know is what has given me the network that I have and has enabled me to do business in different countries around Asia. I always have people who I could call and they pick up the phone and do a favor for me, which is really important to have after business school, right? So that's great. And I think we're all still, connected together virtually. And when people are looking for work, we're always helping each other out. So I think like that strength of the network is really a feature that's been helpful for me. And in addition to that, as Juliana mentioned, right, we do a lot of like action learning and actually getting into companies, doing real projects with companies in Asia, but also applying like these cutting edge frameworks and methodologies, right? And so it's a really unique learning experience where you really are sort of on the cutting edge of new to region innovation, right? So.
Being in a diverse cohort like that, how do you think that affected your learning? What value is that for, just the straight learning experience?
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously going to be exposed to a lot of perspective, right? That is maybe not exactly what you would have thought, right? Going into a discussion about, how to do like something, for example, sales or something like that. It's going to be very different depending on which country you're in and how that whole process works, right? So, just being able to understand that there's quite a big difference between going to market in Kazakhstan versus the Philippines versus China versus Europe, right? It's like, that is an important thing to understand and to know about in your career. Because I've seen a lot of businesses try to expand internationally, and they don't give enough weight to how different these markets are. And so, having that diverse classroom profile helps you really understand those markets probably better than if you didn't have that, right?
Right, great point. Juliana, let's get into kind of those career outcomes, something that a lot, so many MBAs are really interested in. Talk a little bit about the typical kind of career trajectory the graduates are you're seeing for your graduates, and what about the career services and support you guys offer?
Absolutely. So, for first of all, the students' career paths are as unique as the students. Because we're a smaller cohort, I think everyone comes in with very unique goals and we work closely with them. So, of course, we have some that follow traditional routes. They want consulting, and we've had success placing McKinsey, Bain, and Microsoft when they used to hire. But they also pursue other things, tech firms such as Google, Amazon, venture capital. But we also have a lot of family business as well in Asia. But of course, we probably our strongest area is entrepreneurship. We have lots of entrepreneurs. We've got an innovation and entrepreneurship center. And as part of, if you choose instead of doing a project in a company in your final semester, you can actually go through the entrepreneurship pathway and they'll help you with your business plan and launching your business. But our career development office works super closely with everyone, okay? Because we're small, we have lots of one-on-one career coaching. We have workshops. We have multiple coaches, external coaches as well, because it's impossible for our small team to be an absolute expert in every market.
Yeah.
So we bring in outside coaches from different markets. So if there's a particular market you want, you can work with the outside coach with the expertise in that market as well. But we do career tracks, business visits, as well as everything is accessible after graduation as when you were in school.
Yeah, very good. Well, Eric, for the example, tell us a little bit about how you worked with the school, in building up your startup or getting the role that you're also in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think there were basically two things that happened while I was at ASB that were, uh, sort of drove my career decisions, right? One is that I fell in love with learning again, right? So I decided to get another degree after ASB as well, in
Oh,
STEM. I got a Master of Science degree from MIT, so that's great.
yeah.
But in in addition to that, I just got really excited about the startup scene. I was originally more in sort of like the corporate innovation space. And so shifting over to the startup world has been a shift that probably wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to ASB. And the entrepreneurship culture there is huge. And I would add that, in emerging markets in general, it's kind of an overlooked feature is the amount of entrepreneurship that happens there, and the amount of opportunities that are there if you know how to build a company and you have the drive to do so, right? So I would say, yeah, those two things really shaped my trajectory, and I tried some startups while I was, as a student there, and did, some interesting things, some interesting learnings, and ultimately ended up pivoting towards this idea, Victory.io. But that whole start was at ASB. So.
Yeah. Do you think there are any specific like advantages or perhaps challenges that you encountered, after graduation in that career search?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that for me, I actually was fairly lucky. It was pretty smooth. Um, I think that the, you know, the balance of the MIT ASB brand can be really helpful for trying to get jobs in Malaysia or outside of Malaysia, right? It's already very well respected in academia. So when I was applying to other schools, I only applied to two. I applied to Columbia and MIT and got admitted to both. So
Yeah.
That's pretty good, right?
All right.
So, I think there's, a lot of potential for furthering your education. I know there's other people who also had a wonderful time learning and decided to go get PhDs and everyone's different, right? Some people
Yeah,
also just went right into consulting and good for them, right? So, uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Well, so Juliana, in this exploring time for people considering an MBA, can you talk a little bit about, what are some of the, when evaluating Asia versus US versus Europe, what should people keep in mind, especially regarding the long-term mobility, language, cultural cultural things? What should they consider? Mhm.
Okay, I think that's actually a very significant question. Okay. So, what I advise students is start with the end goal in mind. Okay. Are you seeking a global career or are you seeking a second passport? What is your end goal of why you wish to look abroad when you start looking for school? So, ASB offers those that want to have globally focused career. So, we offer the opportunity and chance to learn about Asia and beyond. For those that are US bound, um, it's obviously a stronger pathway. Malaysia does not give second passports, just for the record, okay?
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that you're limited because there's lots of opportunity for work both within Malaysia and throughout the region. But for those that want to do the US bound, Eric's actually an example, and part of why I invited him here was after he did ASB, he went on and did a Master of Science in Management Studies through Sloan, which is a unique path that's open only to partnered schools.
Mm,
So you can, where typical MIT Sloan MBA takes 2 years, you can do our degree and then go to Sloan for an additional 9 months and cross the stage at the exact same time as if you had done a 2-year MBA. Other students decide to do this and they take 5 years and make the decision and go back, but it's not necessary. I would say maybe we have, but you had maybe 3 people in your program at the time you did this from ASB. Between alums, we have maybe 3 to 4 a year that choose to do this. But it gives you an option to also have a US plan if you want a US plan. But if you wish to pursue a career in Asia, there's lots of opportunities. Around 35 countries can get a graduate pass that gives them the ability to stay here an extra year, like OTP in the US. Also, several of the Asian nations are launching what we call golden visas. So Taiwan is probably the shining example of this, where you can actually get a visa for 5 years and then find your job. Other countries are very open to helping you find the jobs and then applying for the visas. So there's lots of opportunities. But what I find really unique about ASB, I went back and looked through several of our alums recently. It's really the global opportunities. So, like, I look at my husband who was in the class of 18, he chose to stay in Malaysia. So we have the privilege of living here for quite a while. Others choose to go on to third countries. So, like UAE or somewhere in Europe or somewhere of those nature. And then we also have others that choose to stay within the region. But
mhm.
even if they go back to their home country, what I'm discovering is they often move around after that. So even one of ours that went back to Mexico is now in New York. Others that go back, I mean, they move all over. So I think if you're interested, it's really about your global path. Not necessarily, you can put yourself in one country and choose to stay, but a lot of our students end up being very global. And even if you look at Eric, even though he's back in the US, he's still working in a global company, global minded and focused.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think that there is any, thing to like the language barriers or the cultural barriers, or is that pretty, easy to kind of like overcome and live in?
So in Malaysia, there's certainly not a language barrier. Okay. Everything is done in English.
Mhm.
The 7 years I've lived here, I've never once encountered an issue where language became a barrier.
Okay,
If you
thanks.
do learn Malay, it makes bargaining much easier and you get better prices. But it's really not, you don't have to know it for work. In other parts of the region, it does matter. Okay, so like when I look at students that go into Bangkok, my students that immigrate into Bangkok usually are going in because they're technical experts. They're data analytics. They are hardcore quant people. If you
Hmm.
want to go into HR, the language becomes very critical.
Yeah.
And I would say the same happens with those that go to Taiwan as well. So it really depends on where you go in the region. Singapore is as English as Malaysia in terms of functionality and doing business. The ease of doing business is quite, I would say it's quite easy
Mhm.
because the culture doesn't become a barrier. but in other parts of the region, it does matter.
Yeah.
And Eric, you were in Japan ahead of time.
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts on this as well from what you've seen from your classmates?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's true. There's definitely sort of language and cultural things you need to be aware of, right? And I think as long as you have a plan and you prepare and you work towards your North Star, right? You can overcome a lot, right? But you know that challenge is going to be there. The question is whether or not you want to challenge yourself in that way, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if you're prepared and you go into it with open eyes, you can do great. Like I had a wonderful career in Japan for uh, basically 7 years after I graduated my undergrad. And I had to learn Japanese really quick, and it was hard. And you know, there's some awkward moments where I made plenty of cultural faux pas, but I think I learned a lot from that experience too. So
Very good. Do you have any tricks that like really helped you out when if you're kind of, trying to do a crash course on the culture or, faux pas?
yeah, absolutely. I would say that the thing is you need to be observant, right? And
Right.
if you like having a conversation and you think people are gonna laugh and they don't laugh, right? Or like, you know, some you don't get the reaction that you expect to happen during a conversation. Usually that's an indication that like the value system is different, right? And that you know, maybe you need to think about why you're getting the reactions you're getting, right? So I guess like if you notice things that are unexpected, right? That's an opportunity to learn more and to dig in and be like, I wonder why that's happening, right? So I say that would be like, you know, the sort of cycle of improvement that you could start for yourself if you ever do go into an environment like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice for pretty much anywhere, I bet. So, Juliana, tell us a little bit about maybe some career support that you might do after graduation. What are some of the pathways that the graduates are pursuing in Asia and beyond?
Okay, so in terms of the pathways that they're pursuing, I mean, we do have, when I look at my current class, we have several that, as part of the program, your very last action learning, they call it an action learning summer project. Because frankly, if I say do an internship, they all think it's an undergrad internship. So we
Mhm.
call it something different to set aside the fact that it's an MBA level internship. And we do get a lot of students that get job offers out of that. Or if it wasn't what they wanted, you get in, you try it, it's not your thing. Then they go on and pursue. Literally, our students go all over. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't tell you that there is a typical path. There's a typical corporate path, and that
Hmm.
corporate path is both in Malaysia and also globally, but there's also the other unique paths as well. So we provide, of course, career services. We copied a lot of what we do from Sloan. They taught us. So we give a lot of coaching, a lot of workshops, a lot of hand holding, and you can go into our director, Melise of the CDO, pretty much has an open door policy. If you've got a big interview, you can go in there, she'll mock you fast. They
Yeah.
help you with the salary negotiations. They help you level set per country because obviously what they pay in Japan is going to be different than what they pay in Singapore versus Malaysia versus the US versus Spain. So they really help you negotiate these terms out. And then, of course, once you start the job, if you suddenly decide, maybe it wasn't the right culture. Maybe I didn't do something right. Obviously, they are right there to help you again and catch you. We're proud that we offer career services for life. So you can come back, you can continue to get coaching. And we do. We hear from students from the class of 18, the class of 20. When they're contemplating changing, they'll meet with a career coach and just weigh through their options and ask advice and guidance, what's happening in the market. And then they'll, as they pursue. And if you continue on and you decide to do the Sloan route, Sloan also would offer guidance through the MSMS, as well as we have a Yale program as well that we're partnered with. They're advanced, I think it's the advanced management program, and they also offer because our strength is not placement in the U.S., but theirs is placement in the U.S. So any
Yeah.
of our students that go to the U.S. they'll help.
Oh, that's great. Eric, did you happen to use any career coaching since you left?
Yeah, I mean I'm in a pretty unique position with entrepreneurship being the main thing.
Right.
And so the entrepreneurship startup sort of ecosystem, you have to be like get pretty nitty gritty with
Yeah.
your own networking and be doing a lot of work on your own, right?
Yeah.
But I do think when I was deciding to pursue like higher learning, like another degree, right? CDO was very supportive at the time and sort of helping me think about how to apply and even contacting people within the network to give me advice on my applications. And so I think, the support is definitely there. It's pretty high touch, I would say. I mean, again, maybe this is an advantage of being a bit of a smaller school, is like, everyone knows everybody, right? And so also, the CDO knows you as well, right? And so I would feel comfortable reaching out to them if I ever needed to get some advice or to hire someone for our company once it gets bigger, right? So
Yeah.
it's been great.
I wonder, if because you're doing an entrepreneurship kind of startup, I think you said supply chains related in Asia. Obviously, and the MBA in Asia, was beneficial in that way. But were there other ways that you think that the MBA in Asia maybe helped with your decision to launch a startup? Do you think you would be an entrepreneur if you had done a US MBA?
Probably not, actually. So when I was going through business school and when I applied to business school, I was thinking like a lot of people who come from the corporate world do is, I'll just get the degree and then just level up to the next level of employee, right? And hopefully get that promotion or, whatever the case is, right? Just I was very much on the corporate pathway.
Yeah.
But seeing just the amount of opportunity there was in Asia in terms of starting a business and, that it's like a chance to get in on the ground floor of a really quickly growing region, right?
Right.
I just saw that entrepreneurship was probably the future for me at least, and was just bitten by the bug and very excited about it. So I do think that the MBA definitely shaped my journey in that direction. I would also say that it opened my eyes to what is going on in the startup space and made it possible for me to pursue like VC as well, right? Because I probably even going into the MBA, I wasn't even too aware about like what VCs do. Right? Um, and so now it's like taking up a big part of my life, right? And it's just I think you need to have a certain level, especially to do VC at a good like high level. You need to understand startups and how they operate as an operator, but you also need to understand the finances that go into it. And it takes a level of understanding that I think definitely MBA would be helpful to achieve that, right?
Absolutely. Well, what is something that you maybe think has had the greatest impact or something you'll always remember from the experience?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the action learning projects are great. Probably the thing that had the biggest impact on me is we did a project where we were cleaning up beaches in Malaysia that had a lot of trash that sort of washed ashore, and it was like a endangered turtle nesting ground, right? And it was part
Wow.
of a project to sort of help with regenerative tourism, and we were advising a company that was working on that. But there's the sort of emotional experience of seeing all that and realizing how big the problem was, but also the realization that you can use entrepreneurship as a
Yeah.
tool to impact things like that, right? And so if you want to have a big impact in the world, building an organization is a great way to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and so that is definitely something that stuck with me and sort of set me on the trajectory that I'm on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Juliana, because we have just a little bit more time, when you're talking with, alumni and things, how do you think they would answer that question? Is like, what is the biggest impact of the program that you hear about?
I hear a mix of things. Okay. So I hear the action learning, I hear transformation.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people come in with very defined goals, but yet what they come away with is a completely different perspective on self and what I want to do next. So Eric mentioned it in the recent graduation speech. Actually, Tom mentioned it when he was talking for his class. So that's actually where we get the term transformation from, is because this is what the students say to us all the time.
Yeah. Hmm.
And in terms of the takeaways, I think it's also, we get a lot of people who want to do business with Asia. They know of Asia. So maybe they're in LATAM, they're working with companies that work with Asia, but then they want to experience to better these ties. So they come to us and then they see Asia in a completely different mindset and a
Yeah.
different lens than they had before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let people know any, deadlines or anything important they should know if they're thinking of, trying to get some more information about Asia School of Business.
Absolutely. So we literally just kicked off the recruiting cycle for the coming year. If you're interested in ASB, we do have some limited fellowships. The earlier you apply, the greater your chances of getting the fellowships.
Yeah.
Um, and you can certainly reach out to us through the website or through our email at admissions@asb.edu.my. I believe under the resource tab, they've generously given us a lot of the stuff there. But we're very open to conversations. We love one-on-one conversations because it allows us to know your personal needs and goals. And then we can walk through, okay, if we can, we have the opportunity, we think we're a good fit to help you. But if we also don't think that we can deliver what you need, we'll tell you that too, because we want to make certain that the students we recruit, that it's really the right goal, right move for them.
Absolutely. That's so important. And Eric, last word for you. People, who were once in your shoes thinking about an MBA, what kind of advice do you have for people in this process of choosing, the MBA programs they want to target?
Yeah, I would say that, you should look for something, an environment where you're going to thrive, right? And so definitely think about that. And, I would say that the the environment at ASB is wonderful. I mean, I love my time there. I would say getting an MBA in a tropical paradise, not a bad, right? So, there's lots of things that go into it, but hopefully you just end up at a place where you found a school that's a really good fit for you, and you're excited to go there. So.
Yeah, when all the other boxes are check, location, location, location for sure. So, well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you both, and I hope that all the viewers, learned a little something that they didn't know and maybe put Asia School of Business on their list. Thank you, Julie and Eric, for your time and expertise. And of course, thanks for everybody who tuned in. Again, if you want to learn more about Asia School of Business, check that resources tab. You can also visit their website for all those deadlines and admission resources that Juliana was talking about. And don't forget, you can find this webinar and many others on our Poets and Quants YouTube channel, and of course, at poetsandquants.com. We'll bring you news, rankings, and advice of all things business education. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.